Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into what absolutely has to be one of the most unbelievable underdog stories in all of sports history. I mean, it's a tale that literally rewrote the rulebook on what a newly promoted club could actually pull off. So let's jump straight into the absolute miracle that was Nottingham Forest's 1977 to 1978 season. So you gotta wonder, how in the world does a team built mostly out of underachievers, journeymen, and completely inexperienced youngsters pull off the impossible? We're talking about a squad with barely any money, a club that had just scraped its way up from the second division, yet they didn't just survive the top flight, they laid the foundation to eventually conquer the whole of Europe. How does that even happen? Okay, let's dive into this, because to really grasp how wild this is, you have to look at the sheer contrast between what people expected and what actually happened. When the season kicked off, Forest's credentials were, frankly, not great. They had barely clinched promotion by the skin of their teeth, finishing third. So, naturally, the pundits widely tipped them to struggle massively. But the reality? They completely shut down their critics right out of the gate and turned into an unstoppable force. The masterminds behind this stunning reality were the brilliant management duo of Brian Clough and Peter Taylor. Now, they'd already shown their absolute genius at Derby County, proving they could mix together a winning formula from seemingly limited resources. And when they got to Nottingham Forest, they brought that exact same magic. They had this incredible, almost eerie ability to look at a squad and see undervalued potential, where everyone else just saw misfits. Together, they basically assembled a tactical masterpiece. And, if there's one single player who totally sums up this masterclass in talent management, it's Kenny Burns. Right before the season, Forest bought him for £150,000. Now, that's pocket change today, but back then, a genuine gamble. He had this massive reputation as a bit of a wild man and had spent years playing up front as a forward. But Clough and Taylor, in a stroke of genius, boldly converted him into a defender. It took a minute for him to settle, sure, but by the end of the year, this former wild man forward was voted Footballer of the Year as a defender. It's just a brilliant microcosm of the whole team's journey. But hey, it wasn't all smooth sailing right out of the gate. A really crucial turning point actually happened early on because of a glaring defensive leak. Under their first starting goalkeeper, John Middleton, Forest let in a worrying 6 goals in just their first 5 league games. Now, they were still winning, but Clough and Taylor knew something we all know. To actually compete for a title, you've got to tighten up that defense immediately. Now, what's really interesting about this is how dramatic the turnaround was. To fix that specific defensive leak, Forest completely broke the bank. They dropped a then-record transfer fee for a goalkeeper, £325,000, just to bring in Peter Shilton from Stoke City. And talk about an immediate return on investment. After letting in 6 goals in 5 games, Shilton conceded only 18 goals in the remaining 37 league matches of the entire season. Just let that sink in. 18 goals in 37 games. So with the defense now an absolute fortress, the offense had the freedom to just shine. Their total dominance was really cemented in early October. They handed Ipswich Town a massive 4-0 thrashing, and forward Peter Wythe, he put on an absolute masterclass, literally scoring all 4 goals himself. That massive victory rocketed Nottingham Forest to the very top of the first division table. And incredibly, they just set up camp and stayed there for the rest of the season. Right, so they did hit a very, very brief hiccup in November, dropping consecutive away games to Chelsea and Leeds United. But honestly, their response to that adversity, it's the stuff of legend. From that point forward, Forest went on a jaw-dropping 26-game unbeaten streak. 26 games! They just steamrolled right through the rest of the calendar, finally locking up the championship after a tense goalless draw at Coventry City in April. By the time the dust finally settled, their dominance was absolute. Forest finished with 64 points and a massive plus 45 goal difference. That put them a full 7 points clear of the reigning champions, Liverpool. They didn't just squeak by and win the league, they controlled it from top to bottom. And doing that, it puts Nottingham Forest in incredibly rare historical company. They joined this highly exclusive elite club of teams to win the first division the very next season after winning promotion. We're talking about joining the likes of Liverpool in 1906, Everton in 1932, Tottenham and Ipswich, and to this day, they remain the absolute last English team to ever pull this off. But wait, actually, it gets even more impressive. While they joined that elite club of promoted champions, Forest actually stands entirely alone in history because of one crazy detail. They are the only club to achieve this incredible double leap without even being promoted as champions of the second division. Remember, they only finished third the year prior. It just goes to show how perfectly Clough and Taylor optimized this specific group of guys. And get this, they were doing all of this while navigating an absolutely grueling League Cup run. I mean, they scored 23 goals in just 6 matches. The pressure cooker in those late stages was intense. They had a massive 4-2 semi-final win over Leeds, a really tense 0-0 draw at Wembley against Liverpool in the final, and then a replay at Old Trafford just 4 days later. That final against Liverpool required pure heroics, mostly because their star keeper, Peter Shilton, was cup-tied, meaning he couldn't even play. So this teenage reserve keeper, Chris Woods, had to step up on the biggest stage imaginable, and he performed brilliantly, holding off the reigning European champions to get that 0-0 draw. In the replay at Old Trafford, Liverpool honestly had the better of the play, but a super controversial penalty converted by John Robertson was all it took to secure a 1-0 win. That gave Forest the League Cup, which was their first piece of major silverware since way back in 1959. But what makes this 1977-78 season so vital is that it was just the beginning. It was a launch pad. Winning the first division got them into the European Cup, and incredibly, they went on to conquer Europe back to back. They eventually defeated Hamburg SC in 1980 in Madrid, thanks to, you guessed it, another crucial goal by John Robertson. So what does this all mean? Well, the miracle of Nottingham Forest proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the disruptive power of tactical innovation and pure squad cohesion over sheer financial dominance. They didn't buy the best team in the world, they built it, out of spare parts, cast-offs, and pure collective willpower. In today's era of mega budgets, will we ever see a team shock the world like this again? It's a fascinating question to leave you with. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what's possible.